Sorry, folks, running a little late. You know, squirrel gets. I am Tommy. You're on the Love Boat. Kirsten Melinda, good to see you. Audra in Denver. What's happening? Cindy G nailed it. How about that? She says, oh, no, squirrel. Yeah, you nailed it. That is absolutely a squirrel thing. Renee B. Wouldn't be a show without you. I am glad you are here. Speaking of which, where are they? Barbara Aldrich. There you are. Jane, good to see you. Just Joan, how are you? Hey, Psalm 118:28. KM, the hostess with the mostest. Yeah, monk. Glad you are here. And so diem, good to have you. Cindy G, good to see you here. Am I missing anybody? I don't think so. So let's get into it, shall we? Hey, Barbara Waite, good to see you. And from Mass. Yeah, sure. Blame the cat. See, she gets it. Girthquake, hello from California. We had a girthquake here recently. Erica, good to have you here. This one, folks, will probably keep the mods busy, and it shouldn't. Like this is something we should be able to talk about, but people are going to lose their mind because that's kind of how it goes. Whitby Island hippie girl, how are you? The reason that I am bringing this up is because I am getting called racist a lot lately. Lisa Trimble, good to see you. I am being called a racist a lot. These are people who obviously haven't watched a whole lot of The Lifeboat, right? If you've watched this channel at all, you probably have a pretty good idea on how I feel about race relations. I'm a little bummed out that people come at me that way. We got an email from somebody that said, Charlie Kirk said if he got on a plane, there was a black man flying it, he would want to get off. That has never been spoken by Charlie Kirk. If you believe that that is the case, I am sorry for your ignorance. Ignorance does not mean dumb. It means that you have not yet been enlightened. Charlie Kirk never said that. The subject matter at the time was diversity, equity, and inclusion. Hey, good to see you, Brock Bandy. You've probably heard people nickname that did, right? Should I? Yeah, anyway. Save it. Yeah. There probably will be. So here's the deal with diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was called sensitivity training. I'm old, says Len. Here's the thing. I'm all about sensitivity training. Nothing wrong with that. I think most people should get an idea of the things that may bother other people. I'm all about that. But here's where we start running into problems. This is not a U.S. invention. We may think it is, but it is not. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a program that was started by the United Nations, right? Miss All Smokes, good to see you. And from Mass says, racism, prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism by an individual, community, or institution against a person or people of the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group. Yeah, right? Kind of like if you hire somebody based on their skin color or who they like having sex with or what their gender is. In theory, there was a guy once who said that we should judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. Hell of a speaker, by the way. One of the greatest public speakers, if not the greatest public speaker that ever lived. Martin Luther King said that in his famous I Have a Dream speech. Well, we got a long way away from that. Here's the problem that I have with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are trying to mandate that you become a good person. Now, if you have a swastika tattoo on your neck and you think that Hitler was the greatest dude that ever lived, hey, John, good to have you here, man. John made it back. Glad you're here. If you have a swastika on your neck, you probably hate black people, right? I've heard people with swastikas on their neck say, no, you know, it's not that I hate black people. Trust me, you do, right? And Jews and everybody else. You put a swazi here, you're telling the world what you hate, not what you love, right? So you can't mandate that jackwagon starts to believe something other than what they believe. That has to happen through education. That has to happen through people meeting people of other skin colors, other beliefs, right? Think of the things that are very accepted today that weren't in the 50s. And it's not because the law mandated them into place. Here's where you run into problems. If I start trying to mandate what you believe, what if you don't do it? How do I enforce that mandate? Now we have to start passing laws like if you don't hire enough people of diversity, well, then we're going to come in and do something to you. Now, everyone loves the idea of a diverse workplace. It would be a better world if we had diversity throughout the workplace. However, if you tell me that I have to hire somebody who is a trans person so that I don't get penalized, you say, well, Tommy, how are they going to penalize you? So you've probably heard of the diversity, equity, inclusion, the DEI. But have you heard of ESG? Put a 2 in the chat if you know what ESG is. right? If you do not know what ESG is, put a 3. And by the way, I didn't when I started this journey, so I'm not judging anybody. I promise you, I had no idea what this was. But I am, sadly, a former criminal. That's how I spent my youth. I screwed up a lot growing up. So when I start seeing something like this, and I find out that this is from the UN, right? The UN mandated this, not the United States of America, and it became a worldwide thing. I start looking for the con. I'm sorry, it's just the way I am. I want to know who's conning this, right? Tax credits, rewards for hiring certain groups. Well, it's worse than that, Chef Bobby, but yes, absolutely, you nailed that. I feel like I need a bingo card with words like racist, Nazi, fascist, existential threat, and see how many YouTube videos I have to watch to get a bingo. If you pick the right one, hun, you'll get a bingo on the first video. I promise you. So here's what happened with this ESG stuff. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. And a score is issued to you by about 1 of 5 companies that do this. They will take a look at your business and they will issue you a score based on how many black people you hire, how many Mexican people you hire, how many gay people you hire, how many transgender people that you hire, how many lesbians that you hire, right? You have to get the whole package. So I started researching this. What happens if you're in Maine? What happens if you're in Vermont? I don't know if you've ever been to these states, but these are states that don't have a lot of minorities. When I lived in Vermont, the social credit score is coming up. Len, we're there now. We're there now for businesses. This is exactly that. This is a social score for businesses. So when I lived in Vermont, the entire population of minorities is less than 1%. Keep in mind, this was the first state to take a stand against slavery. The first one out there to take a stance against slavery. It's not a racist state, just doesn't happen to have a lot of black people that live there, or any other race for that matter, other than, white folk. So what happens if you have a business in Vermont? Well, you still have to hire X number of people from minorities, or you don't get a good ESG score. What does that mean? Well, it means borrowing money becomes really difficult, damn near impossible. So you have companies that are now writing to people all over the United States and trying to get them to move to a state that they don't live in because we have to be diverse. Well, it brings up other problems. Because let's say what you do in the state of Vermont is you have a small airline that flies all over the Northeast. Now you have to hire people based on equity, right? You have to hire people based on the fact that they're going to be of a different race. In its bare nature, this means you're not going to hire the best candidate 100 out of 100 times. What Charlie Kirk said was, if I get on a plane and the pilot is black, I just hope that he was the best candidate and that he wasn't put in there simply because they needed diversity. If you find that racist, I'm sorry, it's not. How about a surgeon? What if you have a hospital in Vermont and it's an oncology center? I want the best damn surgeon in the world working on me. And I don't care if he's black. I just want him to be the best. What happens if the company already has 3 black guys? And now they have to hire another surgeon and the best guy there is black, but they kind of need a lesbian, right? Or they kind of need a transgender person. I don't have a problem with anybody's lifestyle, but your freedom ends at my door. This is a concept, unfortunately, that's a hustle. And I'm going to explain to you how the con works because I'm always looking for it, folks. I'm sorry I am. I don't trust any of this. Hello, Erica. Good to see you. This ESG, environmental social governance, gives you an opportunity to buy your way out of jail. So you're that Vermont company and you don't really have enough people of different diversity. Well, then you can start to shave off and pay some to buy some credits to make your company look better. Now, how great a concept is this? Now you will get a score as if you are hiring everybody that you should. This is about appearance. It's not about diversity, right? It isn't at all about diversity. This is about appearance. So I'm doing the research on this, and I thought to myself, I'll bet you my life this is traded, as in you can buy futures on it and all that. Because I remember when we were talking about cap and trade, and I don't know if you remember this, but let's say your company is not doing really well in the environmental stuff. Well, you don't actually have to fix it. You just have to buy credits so that you can lower your carbon score. These credits are already traded on multiple boards around the world, which means you can buy futures, bet on where these things are going to be worth in 6 months. This has just created a way to make tons of millionaires who don't give a crap what color anybody is that works at your company. They just want to pressure you into having to buy things so the world doesn't call you a racist. I'm not cool with that. I guess that makes me someone that hates black people, right? That's what the emails all get. Perhaps you're not quite sure how my life was saved and why I am no longer on heroin, right? Because I owe that to a black man. But boy, I catch a lot of crap for being racist, because this, folks, is a hustle. This is no different than protection money from the mob. You're either going to pay into this, or we're going to paint you as racist, intolerant businesses. No international bank will loan you $1, or if they do, they're going to do it at rates you simply can't afford. So you're going to have to go now and get your ESG score, right, down to something that is going to be palatable for all of the people out there that are going to call you a racist if you don't do this. This is a way of getting extortion money out of corporations, big and small. And if you happen to make Burton snowboards, I promise you, you're going to have a really hard time finding people to work at that factory that aren't white, because there's nobody in that city that isn't white. When we mandate anything that you should just have as any kind of a human being, it's like the NBA being forced to play with more white people. Well, it's interesting you say that, Chef Bobby. Really interesting that you say that. Because does that not apply? What percentage of the NBA is black? And do we have any trans players on the NBA? Well, don't worry, because they'll just buy their way out of it and get them a good score anyway, right? And this is absolutely nasty. This is, and the ignorance on it, I was ignorant, not dumb, just not quite yet educated. 70% says Erica Frank. Okay, that's not fair. We need to get some more white folk in there, don't we? Hell no. If they can't play basketball, they shouldn't be out there. But when it comes down to things like engineers that are building buildings, or pilots that are flying planes, or people that are working to treat your 6-year-old who has cancer, do you give a crap what color they are? Huh? Do you care what they want to do in their bedroom, or do you want the best candidate? No, we don't judge them anymore by the content of their character. And we don't judge them by merit. No, we're going to judge it by diversity. This is absolutely terrifying as a concept. Can the business refuse to participate? You bet they can, providing they don't have to borrow any money. Providing they don't need to borrow any money, because banks have signed on to this UN BS. So if your score is too low, you will not be able to build your business. Most businesses have, at any given time, a very large amount of money that they owe to banks. Let's pick any random business you want. Hold on, let's look around. Television sets. Let's say you're manufacturing television sets, right? You're going to manufacture 500,000 television sets before you sell one. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? You're going to need a hell of a lot of money to manufacture all those, ship them out, and then wait for a 180-day net pay. You put it on the floor of the stores. They don't buy it. They put it out there on the front. That'll make sense to everybody here. They front those TVs. Well, you're going to have to borrow tens of millions of dollars in order to build those, but you can't, because you don't have enough people, right, who say that they're a woman who have a penis, that you're just not going to get that loan, right? Or the other way around, right? You have to have that diversity, because without it, you can't make a good TV, right? We're not going to figure out who the best person for the job is, but you can absolutely say, I'm not going to participate, right? Now, let's go back to Bud Light. We sit and we scratch our heads and go, why in the name of God would Bud Light put a trans woman on a can of beer when they know their market is going to freak out? Nobody didn't see that coming. I mean, come on. Who didn't see that coming? These are frat brothers. The people that drink Bud Light are not 40 and 50-year-old men across the board. They tend to be a younger demographic, right? So why do that? Well, because they need to borrow a ton of money, right? Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser is a massive corporation, but they have to borrow tons of money every year to buy entire crops of hops, to buy entire crops of grains, and all of the things necessary in order to make their product. Glass, aluminum, all of the things that you have got to buy before you can make the product, and then ship it out so that you can get paid. Well, they were going to lose out on the ability to borrow money unless they wanted to borrow it at rates that were 3 to 4 times what other people would be paying. This is a shakedown. This is a classic mob shakedown. Pay to play. You want to be able to borrow money? Okay, well, then you need to hit this unattainable goal. You got to make sure you got enough gay people, enough lesbians, enough trans people, enough black people, enough Mexican people, enough Asian people. Holy hell. While I'm trying to build everything, I got to figure this out for my team. Don't worry about it. Come over to the exchange, buy a bunch of credits, and we'll give you a score that makes it look like everybody in there. They can all be white, right? But they'll buy enough credits. So it's about appearance. It's not about equity. But the problem becomes, if I say to you, the law is now that you have to treat everybody the exact same. How do I enforce that law? Well, the way you enforce it is you have to have an enforcement arm. Now, right now, the enforcement arm is just a matter of making sure that you are going to be financially crippled if you don't play their game. So Anheuser-Busch rolled the dice because they need to borrow tons of money. Now they can borrow all the money they want, but nobody's buying their beer. So that worked out pretty well. Jaguar tried it, failed, right? None of these companies, with the exception of Nike. I mean, we're not going to say that nobody's ever succeeded. When Nike did the Colin Kaepernick thing, they took a beating. However, they have recovered from that. But this is kind of insane when you think about it. It is nothing more than a shakedown. And the fact that these credits are traded on boards like Wall Street. Now, it's not Wall Street. It's not traded on that particular board. But this is traded. You can bet on it. Where do you think these credits are going to be in 9 months? Because I can bet that they're going to go up or down. This is just a hustle. And let's see who's profiting, shall we? The companies that are killing it in this is going to shock all of you, by the way. I bet you that you don't see this one coming. The number one company making money off of this is BlackRock. Shocker, right? BlackRock currently has $10 trillion that it is managing. But they are more involved in this EGM focus. They're a significant proponent of sustainable investing, offering a range of ESG-focused funds, integrating ESG considerations into its investment process. That's a quote, by the way. Doesn't mean a freaking thing. Great, it's just word salad. But what it means is that the people that come to BlackRock, they're going to squeeze them. It's not enough to just come in and we're going to do a deal. We'll do a deal, but we got to make sure that this score is good enough that we can borrow from international bankers, right? So they got to get that tightened up. Vanguard, another shocker, right? These are the biggest companies in the world. They're bigger than governments. And they worked with the UN, and I promise you, somebody's getting kickbacks for pushing this thing through. The question is, why did we adopt it? And the answer to it is quite simple. Because they, hold on, this is a good one. The reason that we bought into it is because if you don't, you're a racist. And it's the greatest thing to call somebody, right? Is it me or have you gotten uglier? Lego, I am definitely uglier, bro. There is no getting around it. I think it might have to do with the time in the sun. DEI is bull. It's a con, but I couldn't figure it out until I just saw this. And I'm a lesbian. Well, God bless you. Don't trust it. It's the opposite of unity. Stop labeling everything and connect everyone. What a great comment. Right? I'm being called a racist. My life was saved by a black man that I talk to every single week. I send texts to every day. I would cut off my arm to get him out of prison. I'm not a racist, but I can't call out BS when I see it. Well, that's the problem right now. You see, we're all afraid to do this, right? We're all afraid to do this because if you say something like this, you're going to be called something that is going to make everyone in society think you're a scumbag, right? That's the plan. And what a great plan. Yeah, you're bad people if you don't play the game. And the game's going to cost you a ton of money. A ton of money. Keith, be careful, my friend. Thanks for stopping in. This is going to cost you a ton of money. Plain and simple. But we got these little coupons that we can sell you so you don't really have to hire black people. But everyone will think you did. This is the worst concept I've ever heard in my life. So there are companies out there that aren't playing that game. There are companies out there that truthfully and honestly are trying to figure out how to do this right. And you know the good news? There are consulting firms all over the place that are going to help you become compliant with this. That's $1 billion a year industry now. Yeah, we just created a lot more money flow for the rich. That's what we did. We created ways for rich people to feel good about themselves by telling everybody we're helping with diversity. They're helping build really big houses, right? That's what they're doing. They're creating millionaires and billionaires selling things that literally do not exist. You understand? There's nothing there. There's nothing there. I will sell you a piece of paper that says you're no longer a racist. Well, that's just downright beautiful, isn't it? Kind of makes you wish you thought of it, doesn't it? It's the ultimate blackmail. It's just a shakedown. It's a shakedown of huge corporations. And for the corporations that are actually trying to do this, one of two things is going to happen. They're going to blow a fortune, right, using headhunters to try to find a lesbian, a transgender person, a black person, an Asian person from all over the United States and now transplant them to wherever you happen to be. Unless you're in New York City, or if you're in LA, if you're in Boston, if you're in any of the big cities, the diversity is right there and you can kind of pick through it. And it's easy in those cities to think that way, right? How about Hollywood? Hollywood has announced that they're not going to give Academy Awards or allow films to be nominated if there's not enough diversity in it. So if I'm an artist and I write a screenplay, this is art, it's my art. They're going to go in there and go, oh, so the Johnny character, we're going to make him Asian. And that the guy that you called Lisa, instead of Lisa being born a woman, we're going to have Lisa be born a man and then transition to, so this way we have a shot at the Academy Awards. Are you catching this? They're going to make James Bond black. Okay. I mean, if that makes you happy, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm wondering if Ian Fleming would have. This was his art. And by the way, he based the character on himself. This was a guy that was deep involved in Operation Paperclip right after World War II, the one that brought all the Nazis here so that they could work on our missile projects in the United States. He was doing the exact same thing in England. This guy was a spy. So he designed James Bond after himself. That's art. You get that? That's art. You write a book, you take the time to do that. And he wrote a bunch of them. Robert R. Broccoli, the guy that brought that to the screen. This is their art, but not anymore. We're just going to change it because it's not diverse enough. This is what happens when you do this. And if you don't see this, I'm sorry, but it's the truth. You're going to end up causing racism. And if you don't get this, it lives on a couple of different planes. Number one, you cause racism because you're now hiring somebody based on the content, based on the color of their skin. That's the definition of racism, right? That's the definition of racism. Instead of saying, I'm going to judge these people by who they are, no, I'm going to judge you on the color of your skin. That's the definition of racism. Whether it be reverse or whatever, it's racism. Jimmy Kimmel did a black-based basketball player, yet he's loved by the left. Correct. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? If it was anybody else that did blackface. And you know something? To be really honest with you, of all the things that Jimmy Kimmel did, I don't care. I really don't. My problem with Jimmy Kimmel is he's a shill. And if you look at the numbers, how people say, yeah, he did a lot of stupid stuff, Linda, and a lot of sexist stuff. I mean, really horrifically sexist stuff. Stuff that when you look at now, you go, like, if I watch comedy stuff from when I was a kid, some of it just doesn't hold up. And when you watch it, you go, ooh, that is a little rugged, right? Can't believe they were saying that kind of stuff. But when you watch The Man Show, and the thing that I bring up, and I'm going to keep bringing it up forever, they used to film him walking down the street, pretending to sniff the fundaments, the backsides of ladies walking down the sidewalk. This was, I guess, comedy at that time. The Man Show. They showed women jumping on trampolines. Again, not at all bummed out about women jumping on trampolines. I'm kind of a fan of looking at that. But the objectifying of women and doing it for a show seems a little bit different, right? It just seems a little bit caveman. Thank you, Johnny. That's better than I could have done. The Man Show is not exactly fine art, says Kristen Melinda. Your ability to, I love that. You said that well. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, he did a lot of stupid crap. People couldn't watch a 1979 sitcom like Sanford and Sons. Or how about Archie Bunker? All in the Family? Are you kidding me? And they say that that's a racist program. They were picking on the racist person because it was already fading out of America. You understand? In the 70s, what made Archie funny was he was a racist long after racism was really going away. They are stoking the fires of this because when you start talking about DEI, there are people out there that go, we need a law for this? Well, then obviously everybody's a racist. If we need a law for this, then obviously all corporations are racist. They're not hiring people of color. Well, that's not really what's going on, is it? I mean, it isn't. This was a shakedown, a classic, no BS mob shakedown. Did you hear there's a 50-50 chance Kimmel could be back on? Well, P. Taylor, I have heard that. I've had a lot of people that have reached out and told me that. I also saw them remove everything out of that studio that had his name on it. I can't see ABC doing that. Maybe I'm wrong. But he had a 1.6% market share. Now, I don't know how much you know about TV, but the Love Boat's going to be close to that tonight. By the time this video is over, that's horrendous. You can't sustain a show at a 1.6. You can't. He didn't get fired. If it had been anybody else, if his numbers had been 5 times that, they would have said, we're going to suspend him for 2 days, make him pay a fine, and he'll be back. They were high-fiving that they got a chance to fire him because he's not making them money. He hasn't been making them money in years. Why do you stick around for somebody who for 4 or 5 years is just tanking? Watching the numbers drop. 1.6, by the way, is the absolute low because it's been doing this. It's not like it went back up. 1.6 is just what he ended at, is the absolute low. Why do you keep him there? Because it isn't about anything other than propaganda. It's about the left saying, from the time you get up in the morning, The View, until you go to sleep at night with Jimmy Kimmel, we're going to shove politics down your throat. And not both sides. Do you remember Saturday Night Live from the 1970s and 80s? Every politician got tuned up. And it was funny because if your politician got beat on, you knew they were going to beat on the other guy soon. So do you think that's why Ariel from The Little Mermaid changed skin color in the latest movie? Of course. Disney is on the cutting edge of this stuff. Absolutely. Disney has an agenda. Big time. Disney is a horrendously effed up company. I'm sorry it is. It is a horrifically messed up company. You cannot legislate morality. You cannot legislate tolerance. You cannot legislate any of things. You can pass a law that says you can't steal. And if you steal something, you go to prison for it, right? But every human knows you're not supposed to steal it. That is inherent in us. We know that, look, trust me, I was a thief. That's what I went to prison for. But I never thought, I can do this. There's nothing wrong with this. I knew I was a scumbag, but I had a heroin habit. But trust me, you don't need to mandate things like you have to be tolerant to people of other colors. Relatable Reese, good to see you. If you haven't seen the stuff Reese is doing on our channel lately, you should go by and see it. It's pretty wild stuff. It gives me hope for the world, to be honest with you. But you cannot mandate these things. And the way that people end up no longer being racist is they meet people who are of the other race. If you sit down and have conversations with people from different cultures, you'll realize very quickly you're all the same. There's so much more that makes us exactly the same than separates us. And if you concentrate on the things that make us the same, right? Go to a church, pick anyone in the world and go to a church. There's nobody in there going, oh God, I got to sit next to a black person, because everybody in there believes that in the same thing. And all of a sudden, the person next to you or the person to the other side of you, no matter what their gender or their race or whatever, they're all brothers and sisters, right? The same thing happens at car clubs. The same thing happens at anything where you can find common ground and start to rally around the common ground. Instead, what we're doing is we're making people angry at other races who never even thought about being that kind of person. But when you go in there and you go, you know what? I had better grades. I had a longer career. We'll take pilots. I had 4 times more flight hours, and the job was given up to somebody else because of who they sleep with. That's going to piss you off. And all of a sudden, a community that you didn't even care about, they weren't even on your radar. Now you're going, you know what? I can't stand that community. For real, I can't stand. Well, why would I like them? Because you feel like it was them that took advantage of you, and it's not. No, it's the UN, the United States, and the world who has decided you need to live this way. And if you don't, well, then you can just give us some money and we'll tell the world that you live this way. Well, that's friggin' lovely. I mean, if you're going to do the diversity and equality and inclusion and all of that stuff, by the way, you know, the nickname for that is didn't earn it. I mean, it's kind of ugly, right? Didn't earn it. A lot of people say that. Now, the worst part is, what if the pilot that they hired does have as good a resume as the white guy? everybody is going to look at him and go, wonder why they hired him. That's racist. And it wouldn't have been in any of their minds without DEI and without these scores that are being handed out to people, environmental social governance scores created by the UN. Without those scores, this doesn't happen. You hire the best candidate. So what Charlie Kirk said was, if I get on the plane and the pilot is not a white guy, I'm going to wonder if it was a DEI hire. That doesn't make you racist. It doesn't. I want the best dude flying that plane. I don't care what color he is. Charlie didn't either. But if you have to start wondering if your doctor got his job for a reason other than his or her talent, that's a problem. I don't care if my doctor's a woman. My surgeon, well, why would I care? I don't care if my doctor's a lesbian. Why would I care? I just want the best one. I don't want someone whose grades weren't quite as good. I don't want somebody who got the job because you had a checklist of people that you had to hire, or you can't borrow money from banks at the normal lending rate. They are squeezing companies out of business with this. Burton Snowboards. I haven't been able to do the research yet, but I'm telling you, if you knew where that snowboard company is, they got no chance of finding anybody that's not white. They're not. But if you say, I'm not hiring this woman because she's white, or I'm not hiring this woman because we already have 3. No. If she's the best, if the entire staff is female, you hire the best. And this is what we've been teaching, and this is the American dream since it started. Go to school, find what you want to do, and become the best at it. And if you do that, you're guaranteed success. That's the American dream. Then you can buy a house, you can do all of the things that come with it. But find out what you're good at. And if you can get better than anybody else, then you're always going to be hired. If your skills outstrip the next guy or girl, then you're going to have a job. Well, not anymore. Not anymore. It's just no longer a guarantee, right? Because every single job needs to have at least one gay person working there, right? At a minimum. I mean, unless it's a big company, then you need, a couple of dozen. Why? What do I care what you do in your bedroom? I just want to know that the building you're building isn't going to fall down, right? I want the best engineer going, or the pilot, or the surgeon, or the teacher, right? How about somebody teaching your kids? I want the best teacher I can get for the children. You're shaping the future. But now at a school, you're going to go, okay, so you got, a high school. You got, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. You got 4 years. You got maybe 10, 12 subjects. You do the math on all the teachers, and then you go, okay, so we can have 5 or 6 white people. We need at least 4 or 5 black people. Again, try that in Maine. Try that in Maine. How do you do any of this? Well, don't worry about it, because the unions are already cutting deals, right? Because all of these different people are going to bow down to these companies that are selling credits, and then they're going to turn around and go, Scoville and Scoville, they are great. They have the highest equity score you've ever seen. They are fantastic. We may not have hired one black dude, but it'll look good on paper. This is about appearance. It's not about actually giving somebody a chance. It's about the appearance of giving somebody the chance. I was definitely hired because I'm a lesbian. I applied for the job as a joke, knowing I shouldn't get hired, and they hired me. Wow, that is honesty, and I love it. I really do. I'm sorry that there are people who are going to look at you, and this is going to get me. Watch the numbers. It's called the token syndrome. And this is a reality, right, in businesses where people will say, well, they hired her because she's the token lesbian. That sucks. That sucks. It's not a nice thing to hear. You don't want to be considered that. It's festering. It's causing. It is fomenting racism, right? Sexism. I have no reason to dislike anybody because of who they sleep with. I don't care. It has absolutely nothing to do with me. But I'd be really freaked out if my heart surgeon was hired because they were gay, he or she. I just want my heart surgeon to have some skills, right? Yay, token rug muncher.
No way.
Please don't leave. Please don't leave. You are at home. You have found the right channel. Love you too. That's fantastic. I mean that. I'm glad that you're here, man. You know something? We can laugh, right? How dare you make a joke about lesbians, even if you are one? We're not allowed to have those jokes anymore, man. People can't laugh at themselves. Where have you been? Sorry. I love when we can have a laugh. For real. I love that. We used to do it all the time. My brother, call him a faggot about 9 times a day. And I stopped doing it because they told me that word now meant something that it never meant to me, and I'm done with it. I'm done with it. And that's a great joke, by the way. That's awesome. Glad that you're here, man. I really am. Don't get fooled. Don't let people tell you that diversity, right? Equity, inclusion, that any of this stuff is meant to actually make sure that we have everyone in this country treated equally. That's a great concept, man. B-Lady, you look fantastic in green. I'm glad you're here. It's great to see you. There is nobody. Wokeism destroyed comedy, says Brock Bandy, and you ain't lying. Straight up, you're not lying. That's a sad, sad side effect. And you can almost always tell when things really jacked up because the comedy is one of the first things you see. This is Big Brother, right? This is Big Brother. I have zero problem with anyone living any lifestyle. A man cannot give birth, right? A man can't give birth. That can piss you off all you want. That is absolute science. You know what's funny? Bill Nye, the science guy, will tell you that you cannot argue climate change because science is science. But he will tell you that he can't define what a woman is. That's a scared dude that doesn't want to lose his job. That is a coward. Because if you would ask him 15 years ago to what a woman was, he would say ovaries, the ability to give birth. It's all pretty simple, right? X chromosomes, Y chromosomes. Like, this is not hard. I don't care if you live that way. I have no problem with that. But when you start telling me that I can't define what a woman is or what a man is, 1 + 1 = 3. If you have not read 1984, you should, because we're freaking living it. And the reason that it was so important, Deadhead says Jimmy Kimmel getting canceled was cowardly. Well, Deadhead, let me enlighten you slightly. He had a 1.6 market share. It had been dropping like a stone for the last 4 years. And the reason is he sucks. His ratings are not good. He can't even hold a market share of the people who are his people. And what I mean by that is, take the election. 80 million voted, right, against Trump. Take 80 million people. He had 1/80th. He had 1/80th of the market share. That's not going to keep you in business. In fact, the only reason that he had been in business is because they don't want to lose the invites to the cool parties. You explained to me in a free market economy why a failing show whose numbers drop over 4 years stays on the air, because it doesn't happen in any other genre. If your numbers drop 2 years in a row, they're not throwing good money after bad, unless it's propaganda, unless the fact that this guy goes out every single night and beats on the president, and that makes all of the people at ABC happy. And it gets them invited to really cool parties, makes him part of the cool club. But he didn't get fired because of what he said. He should have, absolutely should have. But if I had to take a guess, they were high-fiving each other at the idea that they were going to be able to get rid of him. I like men to tell me if they are a woman. I tell them if you get a monthly, they would quit that fast. Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. It is absolutely astounding to me, Deadhead. And I'll tell you what, I have a Steal Your Face tattoo on my hip. Toured with the Dead. Biggest Jerry fan you ever want to come across. So we have something in common, Deadhead, right? Big time. So, and for that, I love you. Chad, looking good in green. So I love you. I'm not being nasty, but don't get it messed up. This guy had the worst ratings in late night comedy history. And on top of that, every show was a controversy, right? If you look at how many controversial things have happened with Kimmel since he took this job, if you're running ABC, why would you, if you're Johnny Carson, if you have a 4.5 market share, you can be a jackass and they'll keep you. But if you got a 1.6 market share, there's no reason to keep putting up with that. So when this one came, they had the opportunity to just say, we're going to suspend you for 4 days. You're going to have to pay a fine to the Federal Communications Commission, and then we'll get you back on the air. The other problem is what he said was demonstrably false. What he said on the air was, this guy was a MAGA guy. Now, I'm not a MAGA guy. I promise you I'm not. However, MAGA guys and gals are pretty simple in what their beliefs are. This man had a girlfriend with a penis. I promise you, he was not MAGA. Wow, Chad, what a cool thing to say, man. I appreciate the support, and I am glad that you are here. I really am. The Bible says not to fear at least 100 times. I agree with you. And to me, this is the most exciting time I have ever lived. For real. I have been sitting on my hands, afraid to say the things that I have felt in my heart for 4 years on this channel. You know? And Johnny says 9 for him. You know, we had conversations about it. And here's the thing. I had 13 years to read books about this stuff and nothing else to do, right? I had very strong opinions on all of this, man. However, I didn't have the guts to come out and say things that are absolute fact. I got one for you. This is great. This is one of my favorite things in the world. There was a study done at Berkeley University, the University of California, Berkeley, and they looked at the smallest amount of money we've ever charged the rich, and then the largest amount of money that we've ever charged the rich in taxes. All of these numbers are anything after $1 million in earnings. So you earn $1 million and you pay whatever the normal tax rate is. Over the top of that, the highest it ever got was in the 80s, right? So if you make $1 million, you're going to keep 200,000 of it and give 800 grand to the government. People who have that money go, nah, I'll just wait 4 years and see if they drop that. I'm not going to invest money to build something that I can't afford to keep up and running. Now, whether you believe in capitalism or not, or trickle-down economics, this is how it works. People who build factories stop building factories when you tax them at 80%. The fascinating thing is the amount of money that comes into the coffers of the United States government doesn't really change, right? It doesn't. The government's bringing in the same amount. Why is that? Well, because if you go the other route and you tax them really low, there's a bunch more people paying taxes because you just created a stink load of jobs. And yeah, they may not be paying as much in taxes, but it's going to generate all of that money upward. But the crazy thing about that, the trickle down thing is you start making money, you hire babysitters. You start making money, you have a guy mow your lawn. Right? The smallest, the lowest on the rung, the people who are just getting into the workforce catch jobs. When they close down, the first people to get screwed are the people at the bottom, because you'll mow your own lawn if things aren't good. You're not going to go buy jewelry. You're not going to go out to restaurants. You're not going to tip people. You're not going to hire people to watch your kids. You'll just stay home. These are fairly simple concepts. Now you can go either way. I don't hate you if you want to vote one way versus the other, but I have a real problem with you if you can't tell me why you're voting. There are people that have reached out to me recently to tell me that it doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense that I think Charlie Kirk was a good person. They cannot give me one factual thing that this man said that they found offensive. I mean, they can tell me. But then when I started doing research on it, I found out that one of the examples that the people like to give is that Charlie Kirk said that trans people should be killed, that they should be eliminated. That was reported in Sacramento by a newspaper in Sacramento who had to put out a correction. But see, we're on the internet, right? So all you got to do is get the first article, put that on, and people will go, oh my God, man wanted to kill. It's terrifying. Yep, according to the woke, I am a transphobe, apparently because I refuse to engage in a relationship with a woman with a penis. I wouldn't be a lesbian engaging in penis sex. It's heterosexual. Deluded. Yeah, well, who were you to judge? You're obviously a transphobe. That is the funniest. I am so glad you're freaking here. I really am. I am so glad you're here. The Charlie Kirk debates were great, but I watched the greatest thing I ever saw, and I did a short on it earlier. I watched Bill Maher sit down with Charlie Kirk. And I want to tell you something. You want to find two guys that on paper have literally nothing in common? You want to find two people that have absolutely nothing in common? It would probably be those two. But they were able. I had a trans child too. She detransitioned and decided to go back to her regular sex. And the hate she got was absolutely phenomenal. It was sad. And I supported her when she was trans. I didn't get it. Didn't make sense to me. But I supported her. And I think any parent would, right? If you're not, you're a caveman. However, after really long conversations with her, and it's been years since she detransitioned, and she said to me, there was an amazing amount of pressure in the high school that she went to be trans. And her graduating class, I want to say, had 600 people in it. and there was probably 70 of them that were trans. Now, if you look statistically speaking, that is a mathematical impossibility. The high school that I graduated from had 106 people in the graduating class, right? 106. Last year, they had 120. The entire school had 800 kids in it, and about 100 of them were trans. That doesn't happen unless we make it cool. And you know who's making it cool? TikTok. Go over to TikTok and look at all of the channels for trans kids and do this. I don't have TikTok for a lot of reasons. I have zero desire to let them look through every single thing I own. But if you already have it, if you've already hit I accept and you can go through my emails and my texts and look at pictures of me and my wife or girlfriend or whatever, build yourself a new profile and make yourself a 14-year-old boy or girl and see what gets shoved into you. See what they shove down the throat of a 14 or a 13-year-old boy or girl. You see, in their country, BitDance or ByteDance, the company is the parent company of TikTok, they send out educational videos, right? There's none of this stuff. They allow them to do the small dancing stuff, but the challenges, you know, where you eat Tide Pods, right? Or challenges where you try to jump an automobile or any of the other real rocket science stuff that they do. That stuff's not going on in China. They would never allow that. But they're doing everything they can. They have a 1,000-year plan. China always has. That's how they live. We go 4 years at a time, right? 4 years after the president, a new guy comes in and undoes everything the previous president did. The next president comes in, undoes everything he did. Nothing changes except the debt, which is approaching $40 trillion rapidly. Somebody in my brother's feed was talking about how there's no hope left for America. There's no hope left for the dollar. But the people in America are incredibly resilient people, right? What happened to common sense? That's a great question, Deadhead. And the truth is, they should stop using the word common on all of that stuff. Common decency, common sense, right? Common courtesy. There's nothing common about any of them. We should call it uncommon sense, uncommon courtesy, uncommon decency. It's here. All 97 of you are fantastic, right? Deadhead and I just had a conversation. Nobody's angry. That's possible. Bill Maher and Charlie Kirk had one thing in common. They believed in free speech. He thought Charlie Kirk had every right to say what he said. And Charlie Kirk had no problem with anything that Bill Maher said, because free speech there's a reason it's the First Amendment and not the Ninth, right? TikTok is illegal in China. They have another platform called Douyin. The reason it's deemed negative and supposed to be that way. Yeah. It is absolutely an unbelievable algorithm. When we were kids, we watched commercials. Now the commercials watch you. And they're figuring out exactly where that kid is. And they don't have to go like this. Oh, you're a heterosexual, happy, 12-year-old child. They don't have to go, you need to become this now. It's a slow arc. If everything you're shown is this is cool, this is cool, this is cool. I had a mullet. Johnny Scoville had a mullet. Johnny Scoville had a mullet that rivaled, the achy breaky heart mullet.
I made Joe Dirt look like a punk.
He did make Joe Dirt look like a punk. I mean, he had a mullet, and I did too. Do you know why? Because it was all we saw. It was all we saw. We didn't have internet, right? But rock stars all had them. Everything we looked at, MTV all had them, so we grew them. Yeah, Deadhead, it's bad. I know. We do have a wicked picture of the both of us with mullets. I've done everything I could do to hide it, and it keeps making a comeback. Right now, it's in a chest. Do you know where it is? I have it hidden in a chest in the garage in Arizona. Tommy Ray Cyrus. Yeah. I mean, really, it was that bad. It was really, really that bad. Uh-oh. Debbie Zito said, I had a rat tail in 85, 86. Johnny Scoville had a rat tail. I never had a rat tail. Reese says, hot, especially in bug tussle. True story. The Kentucky waterfall. The Kentucky waterfall. Such a great name for a mullet. Yeah, it's big in Tennessee. TikTok should be illegal in the United States, and we got really, really close to it. But then a bunch of people started lobbying, and I'm a little bummed out because it really is bad. I had a French hair in the late 70s. Sorry, not sorry. A Farrah hair. Oh, no, wait a second. There's nothing wrong with Farrah hair. Farrah hair would still be cool today. Had some bad hair days myself. Every color of the rainbow. Did that a little too. Did some dyeing. Did some bleaching. Johnny Scoville, you want to absolutely die? My older brother, the bald one, and I mean older brother. We're not twins. If you just caught this, he's way older than I am. But Johnny Scoville was a hair model. I'm not joking. This bald guy was a hair model in college. True story. So back to this. There's nothing on planet Earth I want more than for people to be judged on who they are, on how successful they are, on how much they care, how much they love, how much they're willing to connect. I don't give a rat's ass what color they are. I don't. I also don't care who you're having sex with. It's got nothing to do with me. There was a time when our identity had nothing to do with color. Our identity had nothing to do with our sexual preference. Now you meet people and they go, well, I'm a lesbian, half black, half what? Like you introduce yourself that way? Just give me your name. I don't need to know what you sleep with. Why that? I don't go up to people and go, hi, I'm Tommy. I still sleep with women. I'm a boring white guy, but yeah, I'm into chicks. A little thicker than the average. Like them, right? It would be a weird way to introduce myself, wouldn't it? Do you remember the last press secretary we had? The first 60 times she got up, she told us that she was black, that she was a lesbian, that she was a woman. I am the first black lesbian woman. Why do I need to know your sexual preference, man? I'd like to think you were hired not because you ticked 3 boxes on the diversity and equity thing. By the way, if you're putting this together on this score, who's worth more, a black person or a transgender person? And I'm not being a wise ass. I'm asking a very serious question. I did say think. United, not divided. Then those that create these ridiculous concepts would have something to be concerned about when we all stop fighting each other. Whoa, I've been saying this forever, right? I am a ex-convict. I lived in prison, and there's nothing they liked more than the races hating each other. Because we go out to the yard and try to kill each other, and they can sit back with their feet on the desk. Every time a prison came together, you had what happened at Attica, where they said, I'm not, one roll of toilet paper ain't going to do it. You're not going to give me a roll of toilet paper a week. That is uncalled for. And you know what happened? Len says, I draw the line with sex with animals, zoophiles. Let me tell you something. Len, I agree with you 100%. However, it's bestiality. Zoophile is a word that they want to bring into the lexicon so that it doesn't sound nasty, right? A zoophile sounds like any other file, right? It's not nasty, right? It almost sounds like I like zoos, right? You know, I love zoos. It's bestiality. It's a person raping an animal. Keep that real, right?
It's like math.
We can't, minor attracted person. Have you heard this? Because we don't want to call them pedophiles. That's cruel to the person that's molesting a child to call them a pedophile, right? Scumbag works, for real. Any name you want to call those people. People that hurt children. Yeah, Barbara just said the same thing. So, and there's a hijacking going on, right? Newspeak. You guys read 1984? If I can get you to say 1 + 1 = 3, then I can get anything. I can make you do anything. And if I can get you to say that a man can give birth, if you can become absolutely, and you saw people go up to Charlie Kirk and yell it, right? They would have debates. Of course a man can have a baby. No, he can't. Doesn't have any ovaries. So a woman who wants to live as a man, right, can have a child because she's a woman. But she's not a man. A man is never going to give birth, at least probably not in my lifetime. Maybe they'll work on it. You know, my understanding is that China now has a bot that can raise a child. And I don't mean raise it. I mean incubate it, and the thing can grow without a parent. What could possibly go wrong? Right? What could possibly go wrong? That's probably something to play with, right? Chef says, I have zero sympathy with a pedo. And you know what? Why would you? Why would you? I'm sorry. You know, I love this animal more than anything in the entire world. This is my girl. I absolutely love Squirrel Nut Zipper. She's the greatest cat in the world. I have so much fun with her. However, if she got rabies and started biting people, right, there's not much you could do. And I kind of view people that hurt kids that way. I'm sorry. If that sounds really, really cold-hearted, how do you cure it? It's never been cured. There's never been anyone that's cured. It is not something that's treatable. In your head, really quickly, I want you to think of what it is that turns you on. Not you, Demon Amy. We know what turns you on. Everybody else, though, think in your head of what turns you on. Tomorrow morning, you have to stop having that be what turns you on. That's not a possibility, right? So if you got bad wiring, maybe you just have to get locked away for life or put down. I'm sorry, it's terrible. I'm hoping that maybe someday there's something that we can do and bring somebody in and maybe fix their brain. But in the meantime, then they need to be locked up, right? And not for 4-year sentences. And by the way, this is another subject that comes up a lot. In prison, believe it or not, those freaks have subsects. They refer to them as touchers or clickers because the clickers just looked at child porn and they don't want anybody thinking that they're a freak. Trust me, they're a freak. You know what I mean? You don't buy Road and Track magazines because you have no intention of ever driving a car, right? The people who are looking at that are looking at that because at that exact moment, they can't hurt a kid, but they're biding their time until they'll be able to. Don't kid yourself. They shouldn't get a 5-year sentence. The person that looks at that stuff is the reason that people are making that stuff, and they should be treated the exact same way. If you're viewing that stuff, it should be a life sentence. Sorry, not mother loving sorry. But don't let anybody fool you, or don't let anyone call you a racist because you don't think diversity, equity, and inclusion is a good thing. It's not. It's a shakedown. It's an absolute freaking shakedown. They don't care whether or not you hire people of diversity. What they want to do is make sure that you pay them enough money in credits, which are traded on the market. So what happens if 20 companies at once go, holy crap, we're coming up on the quarterly and we got to borrow money and we haven't hired anybody? They all got to go and buy those credits, and they got to buy them just like you would buy stock on a market, right? So if everyone's buying it all at once, that's going up. There are people literally, this is generating hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars quarterly. And what do you have to do to make it? Well, here you go. See this? This right here, we print this up, right? And we say this here tells the world you're not racist. No manufacturing, no nothing. It's a wet dream. I'm sorry. All we got to do is click something on a computer, and now all of a sudden you got to pay me. It's like showing up at a restaurant and going, hey, you been having problems with people breaking your windows? We're here to make sure that, nothing is going to happen to your restaurant. What do you mean? I mean, if you don't pay me tonight, something is going to happen to your restaurant, right? The mafia calls that shakedown, protection money. You show up and you say to them, we're here to protect you. You pay us $250 a month. Nothing ever happens to your restaurant. And if your deliveries aren't on time, we'll show up and beat the crap out of the delivery driver. This was common stuff in big cities. It's called the protection rackets. It's the worst thing in the entire world. Agree. Of legal age and willing is a requirement. I flirt with Reese, but it's playful, and I know she's not into girls. If she felt uncomfortable, I would stop. You know what? I don't think you can make Reese feel uncomfortable. She has a hell of a sense of humor. And you know what? We all used to be able to laugh at these things, right? I called my brother a faggot for 30 years, man. Now I got to stop. I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping. And I'm not letting anybody take my words anymore. You hear me? I'm not. And you're not going to tell me I'm a racist because I think DEI is racism in its absolute most beautifully defined form. You're saying to somebody, you must hire somebody based on the color of their skin or their sexual preference or their gender. It is the virtual definition of racism. Anything that you do, right, in the name of good doesn't necessarily make it good. By any means necessary is a really shitty concept. I'm sorry, and pardon my language. But I hate the N-word too. And I'll tell you something, in prison, you hear it 25,000 times a day. And I understand why blacks have grabbed that because it took the power out of the word. I get that. But I have seen in prison a guy singing a song and dropping the N-word because it's in the song and getting his ass kicked for it. And this, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense. We're going to make a song. Don't you sing that word, though. Yeah, don't play with the language. When you can get people to start doing whatever the hell it is, right? 1 + 1 = 3. A man can have a baby. Any of these things, they're hijacking your ability to think critically and logically. If you allow that to happen, what comes next will terrify you. I promise you. Does it make a difference if you change the last letters? It's an interesting question. Inside, it does not. What he means is if you do it with an A, right? The versus the traditionally the is usually said by people with swastikas on their neck. By the way, I want to make a correction because I talk about this. Prison is a guttural language. Boy, you nailed that. But I need to talk about this because you can, and I have seen, black men living with white men in prison in complete harmony. But 100 out of 100 times that I've seen that happen, it's because that person was in a gang on the street with people of a different race. So when they got to prison, they were going to live with people from that gang who are not the same race as them. So a guy that grows up in the hood and is accepted by the fellas and just happens to tip up with their particular gang, when they get to prison, they will walk up to, let's say it's a black guy and he's going to live with a white gang. He will walk up to the black shot caller and say, I have nothing to do with your car. I sit with the whites. I eat with the whites. I live with the whites. Or a white guy says, I'm not a white dude in here. And if you do that, that's fine and dandy. However, now the racism thing is going to be real because now you can't talk to anybody of your own race. And it's pretty disgusting in there, man, if you really want to know the truth. It is absolutely disgusting. My husband spent 29 years in jail and swore like a trooper because that's how they were. I struggle with it. I really do. I'm working on it. It's something that I need to work on more. But yeah, it's foul in there. I remember I was like 3 or 4 months from leaving. And every other word out of my mouth was an F-bomb because it's just all you hear all day. And I remember saying to a close friend of mine, man, I got to get this under control. You know, I talk for a living. I'm going to go out there and be like, F, 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 F. They break syllables up. Effing-leavable. Like it is used so often that it has no meaning. You know what I mean? It's kind of like calling people a Nazi or a racist. I think they should reserve the word racist for people that actually are because it's such an insult. But if you call everybody a racist, then the guy that has a KKK hood and a swastika tattoo is the same as me. And literally, my best friend is black. God that saved my life is black. The one person on this planet, other than my family, that I would probably be willing to take one in the chest for happens to be black. I'd cut off a finger or an arm to get him out of prison today. I love him like family. Best thing that ever happened to me. But I'm going to get emails tonight calling me a bigot and a racist, a homophobe. Wait a sec, where's my friend? Demon, I'm sending all of the emails that call me a homophobe to you. I want you to go. That's BS. I know Tommy. And what did you call it? Rug muncher, carpet muncher. What did you?
All right.
Can we still say that? I don't give a shit. I'm never asking the question. Can we still say that ever again? You know why? There's no hate in my heart. There isn't. But you're gonna change my language because there's hate in yours, right? Because deep down, the people that want to do this, there's got to be a reason for it. If there's not hate in your heart, why the hell would we be doing any of this? Doesn't make any sense. All right, peeps. I'm going to go and spend a little time with Squirrel Nut Zipper because she has been treating me bad. She really has. She's not been treating me well. I'm not spending enough time around them. Many law enforcement are part of those hate groups. Oh, Chef, there is no question. And there are prison guards that are Nazis. A crap load of them. In fact, there is a Nazi gang that is all prison guards. For real. There's a bunch of them. They used to scare the hell out of me. All right, people, between now and the next time I see you, you know what you're going to do, right? You're going to put a little love in your heart and you're going to take back that which we know is true. You can be absolutely appalled by DEI and not be racist. Yeah, the Nazi leader of the Scully affair was a Jewish pedo. Look it up. Lee, I want to tell you something. I remember I was getting pressured. When you first get to prison, it's like rush week at a university where all of the fraternities want you to join. And there were all these prison gangs. I'm not a small dude, and my head is shaved, and I got tattoos, right? It's like it's prison camouflage. I look like I might be one of them, especially with the head shave. So there were all these groups came up, and one of them was giving me the pitch on his whole organization. And when he tells me the name of the guy that started it, I went, Cohen is his last name? He goes, yeah. I go, isn't Cohen a Jewish name? And he goes, no, I don't think so. I said, I'm pretty sure it is. Well, he's not a Jew. Like, he got pissed. Turns out he was a Jew, right? They just weren't educated enough to figure that out. Boy, that's kind of a game changer when you find out the guy that started your gig is actually a Jew and he's teaching everyone to hate them. Kind of weird. You know something? I'm going to be discussing a lot of very uncomfortable subjects because I think it's the best thing going. Not talking about it is making us all afraid. And fear sucks, man. And I'm glad you're here, Amy. Keep coming back, man. That's funny as hell. You make me laugh, and I love that. That, it goes for a lot of you. Quibs makes me laugh more than anybody I've ever met. That's the truth. That one makes me laugh. All right, between now and the next time I see you, put a little love in your heart. A little, what do you say, Johnny? A little, no, not faggot. And a little steel in your spine, a little metal back there. All right?
I'm just getting you back to the other one.
Callie Chaos says dialogue matters, and she's dead on accurate. It's an industry term. See you on the next one, people. I'm Tommy. I love you. See you next time.